To show my appreciation for your support. Thank you, DJs. I came in the door, dripped in Balenciaga.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your size, and in today's video, we're going to be doing something kind of fun because Bleacher Report decided to release their Mount Rushmore for every NFL team since 2000. And since I'm a football fanatic, y'all know I have to check out the list in its entirety. But since I'm a big Titans fan, the biggest Titans fan in the world, I might add, I really have to analyze and see who they chose for us. So for us, they selected Steve McNair, Derrick Henry, Chris Johnson, and Jarrell Casey. And so I thought to myself, I think I should come up with my own Tennessee Titans Mount Rushmore. So that's what we're going to be doing today, y'all. I'm going to be giving y'all my Tennessee Titans Mount Rushmore again. This will be since 2000. So you're not going to see guys like Warren Moon and Earl Campbell. So I know some people are going to be like, Zay, why don't you include them? I'm going to just give y'all that disclaimer. This is just since 2000. So no Warren Moon and no Earl Campbell, because those guys are absolutely legends. They just, played a little bit before 2000. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to this video, man. I hope you enjoy it. So first up on the Mount Rushmore, this is a really easy decision. We have the late, great Mr. Steve Air McNair, the greatest quarterback in Titans history and arguably the best player in Titans history. I mean, his resume is truly impeccable. You look at his career stats. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro. He was co-MVP in 2003. He had 17,303 passing yards, 106 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns, and he had a 47-35 record as the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, there's not a lot that needs to be said about Steve McNair because we all know how great he was and how much he meant to this team, but he is one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks we've ever seen, y'all. I mean, he totally transformed the way the quarterback position was played with his ability to run, his ability to throw, and then he was the ultimate leader. He constantly put his body on the line for the greater good of the team to help this team win, and we definitely won a lot of games with him. And then we remember that magical run we had in the 99-2000 season when he led us to the Super Bowl, and we came 1 yard short from winning our first Super Bowl, y'all. We weren't able to pull it out, but at the end of the day, man, Steve McNair is forever a legend within this organization. And then he meant so much to the city. At one point in time, he even had a restaurant in Nashville. So even to this day, the fans, we still love him. We still adore him. We still carry out his legacy because we realize that without Steve McNair, this franchise would look totally different. I mean, when you talk about the Tennessee Titans, you cannot mention them without bringing up Steve McNair. I mean, it's just as simple as that. We've had a lot of great players play for our organization, y'all, but Steve McNair is definitely the best and probably the most influential player we've ever had. So definitely got to give him his respect. And this is an easy pick. Mr. Steve McNair first up on this Mount Rushmore list. Next on the Mount Rushmore, we have one of the most electrifying players in NFL history, Chris CJ 2K Johnson. And let me just say this, Chris Johnson should be a Hall of Famer. I understand that his prime wasn't that long, but the first 3 years of his career, he was absolutely phenomenal. He was spectacular. He was dynamic. He took the league by storm, and I think he deserves his place in Canton, Ohio in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But anyways, though, y'all just have to get it off my chest. You look at his career stats. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro. He won Offensive Player of the Year in 2009. He ran for 2,000 yards that season. He had 7,965 rushing yards and 58 total touchdowns. And CJ 2K was so fun to watch. I mean, I'll never forget that game against the Houston Texans in 2009 when he had 197 rushing yards and 87 receiving yards, which means that he had 284 yards for scrimmage in one game. I mean, man, I was just amazed at the performance that he had. Unfortunately, y'all, we still lost the game, which just goes to show you how bad our team was that season. But he just really kept you excited to watch Titans football. I mean, because during that time, it just wasn't a lot to be excited about. That was towards the end of Jeff Fisher's tenure. Him and Vince Young, they were going at each other's heads, but you knew that when you watched 28, he was going to go out there and do something you had never seen done before. I mean, his speed, I think he's the fastest player in NFL history, but the juke moves that he had, the way he could cut back on the down, plant his foot in the ground, and just accelerate, my goodness, Chris Johnson was just so amazing to watch. And yeah, hopefully we get more players like him on our team because we know this offense could definitely use some more playmakers. But yeah, y'all, I think this was an easy selection to include include CJ2K on this Mount Rushmore because, yeah, he just did so much for this franchise. And again, he got us through some dark times because, yeah, from 2008 to 2010, we didn't have a lot of exciting moments, didn't have a lot of exciting players to look forward to. But you knew when you turn on that TV, man, 2-8 and that blue and white, he was going to give you a performance that you had never seen before. So respect to my brother, Chris CJ2K Johnson. Next on the Mount Rushmore, we have one of the most physically imposing players in NFL history, Derrick Henry, and he's probably the best running back in Titans history, which is saying a lot because we've had several legendary running backs play for us, but he's probably the best because his resume is elite. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro. He won Offensive Player of the Year in 2020. He also ran for 2,000 yards that season. He had 9,502 rushing yards, which are second most in Titans history, and he had 93 total touchdowns, which are the most total touchdowns in Titans history. And when you think of Titans football in the 2010s, the first name that's going to come to your mind is Derrick Henry because he has so many legendary performances and he carried this franchise for several years. I mean, the first performance that comes to my mind is what he did in 2018 on Thursday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Y'all remember it. We were at the 1-yard line. And what did Derrick Henry do, man? He took that thing to the crib, 99 yards. That was one of the greatest runs I've ever seen. But in that same game, he also had 3 other touchdowns, and he ran for 238 yards. And then in 2020, against the Buffalo Bills on Tuesday Night Football, y'all remember that Tuesday Night Football, he had that vicious stiff arm against Josh Norman. I mean, man, he sent Josh Norman to another planet. That was the greatest stiff arm I've ever seen. And then a few weeks later, in Week 5 against the Houston Texans that year, he had 212 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had the game-winning touchdown in overtime to defeat the Houston Texans. And then we know what he did in the playoffs, y'all. And that's probably where his greatest impact came because in the 19 to 20 season, the 2 playoff victories that we had is because of Derrick Henry, man. He ran for 100+ yards back-to-back games on the road against New England Patriots and then on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. When no one thought we had a chance to defeat the Patriots or Ravens, Derrick Henry, he led us to victory, man. He ran us to victory, I should say. And for that, we are always going to remember him. But you talking about a guy that just, you knew what you were going to get from Derrick Henry. I mean, it took him a little while to get going. You know, it took him about 3 years to really show what he could do. But, man, once this cat got going, I mean, he just put up some video game type numbers. Definitely had one of the greatest stretches in NFL history we've seen in running back half. And, yeah, I mean, he was an easy inclusion to this Mount Rushmore list. Again, we've had so many legendary running backs from Earl Campbell, Chris Johnson, you know, Derrick Henry and Eddie George, but he probably is the best. And because of that, we had to include him on this Mount Rushmore. And last but not least, on the Titans Mount Rushmore, and this might be controversial, but we have Keith, Mr. Monday Night Bulock. And this last spot was very tough because there were several players that were under consideration for this spot. But ultimately, I gave the nod to Keith Bulock because he was the heart and soul of this defense for 10 years. And his stats absolutely reflect that. He was a 1-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro. He had 1,078 tackles, 18 sacks, 19 interceptions, 15 forced fumbles, and he has the most tackles in Titans history. He is by far the greatest linebacker in Titans history, and to this day, we still haven't had a linebacker play at the level that he played at because he was truly great at everything. He was great against the run. He was great at coverage. You know, he was very athletic. He was a great leader. He was super reliable. He rarely missed games, and the biggest thing I loved about him is that he was a big-time playmaker. When a play needed to be made, you could count on Mr. Monday Night to make that play, and that's where he got the nickname from because we remember what he did back in 2007, taking on the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football when he picked off Drew Brees 3 times, y'all. That was one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen. And we know Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and he rarely threw interceptions. So the fact that, you know, Keith Bulock was able to intercept his passes 3 times just goes to show you the type of player he was, the type of playmaker that he was. And I think he's one of the most underrated players in Titans history because, you know, we hear about Steve McNair and Derrick Henry and Eddie George and, you know, D. Mace. We hear about those guys a lot, and obviously they deserve their respect. But defensively, y'all, you can make a case that Keith Bulock is the greatest defensive player in Titans history because, again, his resume was elite, and he just did so many things for this defense, carrying this defense for 10 years. Even some seasons when we didn't have the best defense, he was still leading us because that's just the type of person, the type of player that he was. He was also very great in the community. So you got to give your respect to Keith Bulock, y'all. And let me just say this, honorable mentions to Derek Mason, to Brad Hopkins, Michael Roos, Darrell Casey, Eddie George, Kevin Byard, and Blaine Bishop. All those guys were in consideration, but again, I gave this last spot to Keith, Mr. Monday Night Bully. So there it is, y'all. This is my Tennessee Titans Mount Rushmore. From left to right, we have Steve McNair, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry, and Keith Bulock. And this is kind of funny to me because I don't think it really looks like these guys. But hey, there are their faces on this Mount Rushmore. I had a ton of fun doing this. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Remember, y'all, laughter is good medicine. So what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm in it, man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.